Hi. So, I was just thinking about trust and how important it is. And, you know, I'm writing some things down and thinking about my nephew. He's 9 years old, and I've had many conversations with him about trust. Specifically because he's broken mine and has not valued the trust that I've given to him. So I've had to, let him know, one, verbally, that the things that he's doing doesn't make me trust him, verbally, and two, remove access from the things that I trusted him with, mainly my property. So I was just thinking, a lot of times people don't realize the consequences of their actions, me as well. And I was wondering, what is the consequence of breaking someone's trust? And the first, maybe not the first right away, but after giving it some thought, the first thing that came to my mind is just access. Access to, with my nephew, and I'm not saying that he's indefinitely gonna, I no longer trust him indefinitely, that's not what I'm saying, but for the time being, I can't trust him with certain things of mine, specifically my property, because he has continuously shown me that he does not respect it enough to take care of it, not to take care of it, and to own up to when he hasn't taken care of it and take accountability. Now, some would say, oh, he's 9 years old, why are you putting so much pressure on him, or that's a lot for a 9-year-old? No, it's not. It really isn't. Now for a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, yeah. But by 9, he comprehends a significant amount of things. So I can only give but so much grace before I enable bad patterns and bad behavior. If I say bad, I don't mean he's a bad person. It's just not him in his entirety, but this piece that can be rectified and can be changed and can be altered. And not only through verbal communication, but physical removal or adding things. So for me, I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, access. Access is huge. Access to someone's time, their energy, their resources that you may not have, right? That you may not have yet. And they are allowing you to have, as your own. And, it makes me think, okay, then how, it's not even just trust, but how can I, make sure I continue to have access and continue to have trust in this person? And at the end of the day, it's would I treat my things like this if this was mine, right? And that's a mindset thing. If this was mine, how would I treat it? Now, people would treat it just the same, right? Now that's another thing. What's your level of standard of care for your time, your energy, and your resources, right? Everyone has a different standard, because perhaps with my whiteboard that my nephew has used a couple times and not properly taking care of it, I wonder if he had a whiteboard, would he treat it like that? And he would probably treat it the same way. He would. So then educating someone who has access of your things, whether they be your time, your energy, or your resources, let them know how to treat it, because you treat it as such. Or so that they understand your level of standard for something that isn't theirs, but you want them to treat it as though it is theirs. So they have to know your level of standard if you are sharing these things with them. If you're giving these people access to any part of you, don't assume, and that's the kicker. Don't assume that they will treat it the way that you will treat it. And this goes for me. I've been on both sides of the coin, so to speak, where assumptions were made by me, by other people, and clear communication didn't happen. But it's not until like certain things happen, it's like, oh, okay, you and I don't have the same standards, which is okay. But if I'm going to give you access to my world, I'm going to let you know what the standard in my world is. And if you uphold it, I will continue to trust you and give you access. And if you do not uphold it, I need to remove the access, period. And that's it. It doesn't mean that there's any love lost. It doesn't mean that I think less of you as a person. And sometimes people do tend to do that. I'm guilty. Again, both sides of the coin. Yeah, like, no, just remove access. Still be loving, kind, and respectful to the person, even though you've removed access. You know, unfortunately, sometimes it gets to a point where you have to remove complete access because the person is no longer making you feel like they are trustworthy and valuing what you are giving them access to, right? So, you know, right now I'm removing one piece, which is my whiteboard, away from him, right? And I will let him know, you know, the standard of care. And, you know, I'm trying to figure out how he can earn my trust back. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I wonder if I should leave it up to him or if I should give him like, hey, I need you know, if you want to have access to this, I need to know that I can trust you. Right. I'm still trying to figure out if I should set that out for him or allow him the space to figure it out. I'll experiment with that. I think allowing him the space before telling him would be best. But that's just right now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah. So, you know, also, I'm thinking to myself now, when someone gives me access to their time, their energy, or their resources, it hasn't been a complete blanketed practice, but let's just say I'm in someone's vehicle, right? I'm in the passenger seat. Before I touch anything, I do ask, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Right? Because they're allowing me access. Now, when I was much younger, I didn't understand that I had access to people's homes, their vehicles, their kitchens, you know, I mean, that's in the home. But, you know, these things, clothes, gadgets, whatever they may be. And I've learned through my experiences to ask, so that I know their standards, right? And what I am allowed to do in their home, because just because they're giving me access doesn't mean that I'm gonna get full on access, maybe partial access, right? Because full on access could be only limited to a very, very few people, or maybe just to them and no one else. And that's okay, right? Like, you know, and by that, an example, I mean, like, you know, in the home, for some people, they like to walk around naked in their home, right? That is the access that they have allowed themselves, right? The comfort to have in their home. But for their friends, they're not gonna give them that access. Like, nah, that's a no, right? So there's limits. And I realized asking questions as well as simultaneously observing how the person is and how they treat others within the spaces that they give access to is really important. Now, if there is a level of trust that is like broken, unintentionally so, then I go in my brain, I'm like, okay, how can I make up? First and foremost, just simply apologize, right? But rectify the situation by rectifying or changing the behavior, if that's what I wish to do, right? But I'm going into a lot more deeper, complex, human behavior, but it's really important. And it's important because it determines the quality of the time you spend with the people around you. Honestly, I'm speaking about trust and access, but what I'm really speaking of is, what is the quality of your relationships? And trust and access will determine the quality of your relationships. And if you can uphold the trust, or if it's broken multiple times, the quality of your relationships will be determined by those things, by that thing specifically, trust. So, yeah, I was just thinking, because I love my nephew, and this is just, my nephew is like the most closest example I can give. I love him deeply. He's such a beautiful boy, and I love watching him grow up and, be there for him and teach him different things. However, that does not mean that certain things that he does not affect me negatively and could weaken the relationship that we have. And weaken it because trust is being weakened and broken over and over again. But I don't foresee this happening often. I'm not a mind reader, I'm not a future teller, but if I show him what trust looks like, not just tell him, because telling someone is one thing, but to show them, right? And the way that I can do that, at least what comes to mind right now, is how do I trust his time, his energy, and his resources, right? How do I show him how I trust him, that I value him and his things and his energy, right? I'm really diving deeper into the practice of reciprocation, but being the first to show and to tell before I am waiting on reciprocation. So if I want trust, I will show and give trust, right? I will lead by example. Leading by example. Instead of waiting to be given something, whatever it may be, trust, understanding, love, compassion, kindness, grace, I will give it. And I will lead by example. It's a new, consistent practice for me, but from just the intentional times that I've done it recently, I can see a huge return, both internally and externally. Because when you wait for things, gosh, there's like, I don't know if you feel this way, but there's like this anxiety that builds, this resentment, this frustration, confusion, like, at least for me in my personal experience, like, I just don't understand why these things, these people, the world, the universe, whatever it may be, is not giving me what I desire. And then I think to myself, okay, you can have that desire. It's fair to have that desire because you want a certain quality of life and quality of experiences. But are you leading by example? Are you investing, pouring in, sowing before you reap, planting before you harvest? And I really have to like take a pause and be like, you got me there. You got me there. There are many times where I'm like, no, I'm not. And it changes my whole perspective, mindset, and decisions. Because then I go, okay, what is it that I want? I want to be valued, to be trusted. Okay. Then how do you show others that you value them and trust them? Right? That doesn't mean that it will always come to me with every single person, but it will come to me so much more in abundance because I've given it, I've sowed into it, I've planted. Right? I haven't been on the defense, I've been on the offense. I've been proactive about my desires and knowing why I want them. I want these things because it'll give me a good quality of life and experiences, and I will enjoy the moments that I share. That's why. I mean, damn. I mean, that's a really good fucking reason. But, you know, this video was mainly about like trust and access. But the real, true, you know, thing is, what kind of quality of a life and quality of moments and experiences do you want to have? And what are the things you need to do, believe, practice consistently that will give you those experiences, that will give you that kind of life? So these are the things that I think about, ponder, and practice as best as I can. And I'm not perfect. I'm not as consistent as I would like to be, and that's okay. But if I can be 1% better than I was yesterday, I'm happy.